I am Angela Carson. My channel is Wander with Angela, formerly Expat Angela, if you've been following along. So here's what we're going to talk about today. And you should tuck in. I imagine that this is going to be a bit long, but if you're looking to live abroad, this should give you a really good idea about 1, the costs, 2, making friends, 3, working, 4, sex and dating, and 5, raising kids. So just a bit about me. At 21, I lived my first expat life experience when I moved from Newport Beach, California. I actually drove my Jeep and moved to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I had been on holiday the month before, 2 weeks before, if I'm being really honest. Shit, hold on. Okay, that was lunch. I dislocated my kneecap and fractured my ankle last week, so I can't cook or stand really long enough to do anything in the kitchen. So yeah, I'm doing a series on the best food deliveries in Kuala Lumpur right now. Costs. It can either be a really good thing to move to a foreign country because you're coming over on a post from your company and you're coming to a country that's less expensive. That's fabulous. Or if the company is moving you and they're paying housing and expenses and your children's tuition and things like that. It can be very, very lucrative, shall we say, to be an expat. I've never done that. I've always worked for a company, a local company, and I've moved to work for them. I typically work with startup companies. For me, I've done that in Barcelona, Spain. I lived there for 12 years for 2 stints. I did that for 2.5 years in India, several months in China, and a year in Hong Kong. If you're coming over for your company, you're kind of set, especially if you're moving to, well, not Hong Kong, not Dubai, not someplace that's crazy, crazy expensive. If you're moving on your own and you just want to be an expat and you choose to live someplace and you find a job and you have to resettle yourself and get your life in order, it can be expensive. So what you need to do for that, I would say, is negotiate with the company that you're moving to the country for and have relocation expenses added into your contract. Also have some type of initial reimbursement. So it can vary from country to country and drastically. It's crazy that you would think a place like India would be quite cheap, but housing in India is not at the international level that we expect from our residences unless you hit a certain rupee amount. And they expect for those places to be taken up either by the very wealthy or by expats. So they gouge you. It was crazy expensive in Bangalore. They require 9 months security deposit on your apartment or house that you rent. 9 months. It's crazy. So I negotiated that into my contract. They financed that for me when I moved to India. When I moved to Hong Kong, they gave me an allowance that I could also pay back, and they handled all my relocation expenses. It's pretty important because when you get there, unless you want to live in a place that's already furnished, that doesn't feel like home, you're going to need to set up house. So that's one of the biggest cost factors to keep in mind. One of the biggest costs I had, it wasn't a monetary one, but I was actually blacklisted from India. The company that I was working for was taking money out of my account every month for my taxes, but I didn't realize that they weren't paying it to the government. Then I had my first year's renewal, that was fine. The second year, you're supposed to bring tax returns and basically the equivalent of a social security number in the US, which is called a PAN card, in India. I didn't know that. I had let them take care of everything, which was a huge mistake and cost me basically my life there. Not literally my life, but the life that I had. I'm not going to go into the long story, but basically it took months to get my PAN card. By the time it arrived, I had overstayed my visa. My daughter luckily had just finished her IB program and was leaving to go to university in the UK, but they held us. We started having to pay bribes to the police it was a huge mess, and I wasn't allowed back into the country again. So there are some things that you should look out for yourself. Like, do take care of being responsible for your own paperwork, making sure, just double checking that everything that's being done for you is correct, because the costs associated to having your company do it, which saves you money because you're not paying a solicitor to handle your paperwork for you, can actually turn out to be quite dear. Number 2, when it comes to making friends, there are basically 2 roads to follow. You can do the expat group thing, which I avoided, or you can try to organically find friends as time goes on. If you do the expat scene thing or the expat group thing in the beginning, most people love that. It's a really easy way. Okay, easy? No, it can be cliquey. So you have to insert yourself a little bit, go up and meet people, shake hands, introduce yourself, and basically like break through, because some people have been here for quite a while. It gets cliquey, trust me, but that can be a really good way to avoid having what happened to me in Hong Kong happen to you. The first time I was an expat was Mexico. I fell right into a group when I moved there. Second time, it was Spain. And I found friends because I had a summer job, and it was very fun, and it was a blast. And those same friends, a lot of them, continue to be my friends as I was in my late 30s, early 40s before I left Spain. But when I moved to India, I made a really conscious effort not to do the expat group thing. I had searched around. There's a great guy who I actually became friends with who has the best expat club in Bangalore. His name is Viren. He did an amazing job with these parties, but I wanted to build my life myself, and I did that. I ate dinner by myself every night for close to 2 months. I started my blog. That's actually when I became a blogger, so I'm grateful for that. But it was lonely in the beginning. 2 months on your own, it's tough. So I eventually made friends. I was at my first visit at my new hair salon, well, my first hair visit in India, and the stylist invited me out that night, and I just thought, okay, because it was 3 guys, and lots of male stylists are gay in countries where I've lived, so I assumed those 3 guys were gay. They weren't. They were actually trying to sleep with me, but I met this great guy named Jan, who was the DJ at the club we went to. That night he invited me to a party with the chef of the restaurant at the club, and it was the most fun introduction to a city I've ever had. Partied until noon the next day. It was a chef, a DJ, Russian models, a basketball player, actors. It was just this really fun time. And that group ended up becoming my group of friends, and it expanded over time. But it was a really fun way to organically find friends for my life. And that's one way you can go. It's tougher. I've done that here in Kuala Lumpur. I've been here since 2016. I actually knew a really great guy who's one of my best friends here, Ramesh. He and I met in San Francisco with the company I was working for that I moved to Hong Kong for. And so it's great having someone here. I can see him every once in a while. I really love Kuala Lumpur, but ever since I started making more friends and I have a bit more of an active social life, I feel like it's more home. My heart feels like it's more home. And that's really important, because you can get into a really negative space without friends. And that's one of the hard truths about expat life. In Hong Kong, I really didn't make friends there. I tried to go out, and I had a couple of friends who I could do things with every once in a while, But again, they were in relationships, it was hard to get them out. And the expat scene in Hong Kong, it's very transient. After leaving India and having such good friends, it was tough. And the last 2 months I was in Hong Kong, I became quite depressed. There was about 7 weeks where I didn't leave my condo. It was kind of that bad. And it can be a real problem. If my accident that I had now had happened in Hong Kong, I wouldn't be as happy and joyful today because I didn't have a support network there. I didn't have friends I could call. I didn't feel at home there. So this is a really important one to kind of nail. Okay, this one's gonna be a bit shorter. So when you're working in a foreign country, as I said before, you've either moved here with a company that you already work with, and you're a foreign worker basically representing that company, or you've moved here and have taken up a role with a local company or a regional company. Either way you do it, make sure that number one, you have your paperwork set. Number two, that you've pre-negotiated and have everything in your contract that you could possibly want. I've had a couple of situations now where I've changed countries and the role was either nothing like what they represented to me, or the circumstances weren't right. I've had one company where the boss would yell at me so much. I had never had a panic attack in my life, and he caused me to within the span of several months. So I had to leave because I was basically taking Xanax to keep the role, and that wasn't a good enough reason to be there. In one of my contracts, I didn't negotiate the what happens if it doesn't work out clause, that probationary period, well enough. And I had a company actually try to wiggle out of that. I had moved from a foreign country to the country I was residing in. I had taken the role, I set up my condo, I had a lease, I had just, mobile, TV, blah, 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 blah. And things didn't work out, and they tried to let me go without a severance. So I would never again do that. I'm very, very clear with my contracts now. I put everything in there. It's too much risk to say yes to a company because you want the job without all of the I's being dotted and T's being crossed when it comes to your safety and your protection. Okay, number 4 is sex and dating. So this one, it's kind of like making friends, where you kind of decide, well, if you're single, what it is you want, what you're looking for in your life. So for me, okay, it's 2018. I haven't had a proper relationship or a proper boyfriend since 2005-ish, 2005. So it's been a really, really long time. In the beginning, it was because I wanted to just have that time with my daughter. She would be leaving at 18 to go to university. I knew that. And to me, she was just the most important thing in my life. And I thought a third person would interrupt that. But once she left, then I started having different thoughts, right? So you kind of have to think this through, because I realized that I wasn't ready to settle down really in the countries where, or not forever, in the countries where I was taking up work and residing. I'm pretty sure my end game goal is to move to Australia. I don't know why, it's just been a dream. So I'm really, really careful. I'm very, very guarded. Okay, maybe that's a better way to say it. I don't date. I just kind of think that when the time is right, it will all come together and I'll find the person I'm supposed to live out my days with. But it's really something you have to be careful of, because when I lived in Spain the first time, I met my ex-husband, and that did not turn out well at all, except for the fact that I have my amazing daughter who is the joy of my life. So if you just kind of go into it and say, all right, I'm gonna play around and have sex, I'm gonna travel a lot, I'm gonna enjoy myself in this country and give myself 2 or 3 years. Yeah, for me, that's the biggest advice I can give on that topic. This is long, right? Sorry. Last but not least is number 5, raising children. This vlog was actually inspired by this really cool infographic I saw a couple of weeks ago by Aetna International. They have this amazing, well, they call it an infographic, but flip is it long. It basically surveyed families and individuals from around the world, expats who are living around the world, and deep dived into everything from the healthiest places to live, the least expensive places to live, the best places to raise children, etc., etc., etc. And it's a really, really interesting piece. I'm gonna put a link to it down below. It was talking about raising children, like not third world children, what are they called? I do not remember. I'm going to put it here, but basically what my daughter had become. My daughter was actually born in Barcelona. We moved when she was just a couple of months old back to Southern California, where I'm from. And then we eventually moved back to Spain because I wanted her to be close to her father as well. And from there we moved to India. She then went on to the UK, and she's traveled the world with and without me, which I'm really, really proud to see. What she's told me, I'm also going to put a link to this down below. There's a piece that I wrote a few months after my daughter moved away from India. And for me, I kind of thought, all that moving around had probably, I don't know, screwed her up a little bit, but she shared with me that moving to India was the best thing that could have ever happened to her. We lived a life in Spain where she went to a private school. She was at the British School of Barcelona, where it was quite important to be popular or to have a certain persona. And she says that moving to India and seeing on a day-to-day basis the struggle that people had just to live, being in an international school where she had friends there from all over the world, all different languages, but they were all in the same boat, all of them from somewhere else, living there together, existing in this space. She admits that being there, especially with all the volunteer work that she did with the IB program, which is amazing. All IB students are required to do, it's like just shy of 200 hours of volunteer work. The experiences she had, the respect that she had for this world actually shaped the woman that she's trying to become today, or that she is becoming. And what she wants to do with her life is now focused on how she can help in the world. Raising children as expats is one of the best gifts that you can give to your child. It teaches them so much, and it allows them to see the world and respect the world, see that they're not living in the best country in the world, they're living in a country in the world. And it can help shape them in ways that you can't imagine. And I'm truly, truly proud of my daughter. If your children turn out half as fabulous and care about the world half as much as my daughter, you'll be so happy that you've chosen that. So please do subscribe to my channel. Definitely do check out that survey from Aetna. There are so many expats out there who choose to live this life because you can live a better life, not better. You can have more freedom and travel more, have more disposable income at the end of the month, living in a country that isn't as expensive as your own. All right, guys, big kiss. I wish you a fabulous day. I'm gonna go ice my ankle now. Socks.